I'd like to call the Hooksett School Board meeting to order. Introduce Mr. Bairstow to introduce our student who is doing the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, everyone. I am pleased to introduce Paris Stewart. She comes to us from second grade in Mrs. Liscar's class. And she stands out this year and last year, but especially this year because of the amount of growth and the hard work that she has showed this year. I think everyone that has worked with Paris and everyone that knows Paris has seen this growth in her, and she just stands out amongst many of our second grade students. I asked Mrs. Liscars to write a little, or tell us a little bit about Paris, and this is what she had to say. Paris has done a wonderful job this year in second grade. She enjoys learning new things and exploring new tasks. One area she has shown great improvement in is the area of reading the language arts. She has worked hard to increase her reading fluency and can often be found reading a story to a small group of peers during center time. Her parents noted that she will read books to her younger siblings, often holding the book and discussing the pictures like a real teacher. Her teachers are so proud of how successful that she is become. So we're all very proud of Paris, and we'd like her to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have proof of postings. Thank you. I'm going to move on to item number 3, which is approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move that we table the minutes. I haven't had a chance to read it.
We are now on to item 4, which is the opportunity for the public to address the board.
Chrissy Castor, 6 Sergeant Drive. When the school board brings up items such as schools half days, projectors in the classroom, blizzard bags, as a parent of a student with special education needs, I always hope that members are asking themselves, how will this benefit these students? We'd like a kudos shout out to the OT, occupational therapist, Christine Hepton, for piloting a handwriting skill program at Underhill. We hope this goes across the board, Memorial and College. My son is 14 and still does not know how to write. He can print his name, Jim, but that's it. The learning curve for him, in my opinion, is over. However, he is quite the typist. We also have a 5th grader who also does not write or type, but he can work an iPad very well with pointing, scrolling, swiping, and dragging letter time. Perhaps he may benefit from this program. We would like to stress the importance of the iPads in schools for kids like mine for typing. We would also stress that there are iPad applications, not games, to work on handwriting dexterity for handwriting readiness. Next, we would like to congratulate the Special Education Department on their 2 staff members who have been the highlighter from the state Department of Education for the New Hampshire Alps. It does not surprise me at all. Our special education teams work very hard with our kids, and I feel more emphasis needs to be put on them. And In regards to an annual formal presentation when students leave our school district is a great idea. We would like to add our 2 cents, that you include Hooksett special needs students in your presentation. We will expect that you will know what happens to the Castor brothers. We heard from the mayor proudly say how some of their Manchester kids went off to prestigious universities such as Harvard, but not one mention of special needs students. Do they go off to post-secondary school, and is it successful? Do they have a job? Are they able to maintain that job? Are they living independently? Hooksett takes pride in their students with special needs. We see it, feel it with my own 2 children. We have pictures that tell that story and happy trilling at home. We want the Castor brothers to go to high school that shares this pride and invest in our Hooksett special needs students the way Hooksett does. That means flexibility, Wi-Fi, up-to-date technology, free vocational opportunities, daily living skills, inclusion, and with educators that work together, outstanding two-way communication, and celebrate students' accomplishments. Lastly, we would like to acknowledge the industrial tech, Mr. Trimmer, who so kindly built a garden box for the students to grow vegetables, plant, water, take care of, pick, and to cook, importantly, support healthy eating habits. We also want to acknowledge Sharon Valdez, 8th grade special education teacher, who has been instrumental with our son's garden experiences and cooking preparations of those same vegetables. We are strongly requesting that the school board and Dr. Littlefield think about a greenhouse for Collie. We're confident that you can collaborate with the community to see about material and garden supply donations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jen Legier, 65 Lindsay. With the new law that will be taking effect this July 1st of 2013, regarding state construction aid in New Hampshire, it may be time to reinvestigate Hooksett building its own high school. We have the land that has been recently granted to us. Realize that some work regarding access still needs to be accomplished, but with this new law coming into play, which state share will be paid up front, so districts don't have to borrow the full amount, it may be a really good financially responsible time to look into this once more. The cap on this aid available is going to be $50 million. The first year, they're limiting it to $6.2 million, and no projects have been approved or funded to date. I have attached a copy of what Jack Sweeney posted a few months ago, and he has agreed to have me submit it to you with the understanding that it's completed by basic internet research and it's not a formal study. I also saw the letter that the Candia School Board member, Nicole LaFlame, sent to the State Senate, the New Hampshire House of Representatives, the New Hampshire Department of Education, Attorney General, and the Executive Council, asking for assistance in regards to the New Hampshire Ed Law 306.17 class size. Would this be an avenue that Hooksett should do as well? I feel it would gain some much needed attention at the state level. I have said before that just because the right to know law exists, I don't think that we should be posting on social blogs. We have a district website for that. I've received a lot of phone calls in regards to the recent high school letter that went out, why they didn't get one. And I said, I think it was just to the high school kids and that the younger ages are coming. If somebody could clarify that, that would be great. I would like to bring a little bit more attention to the situation regarding pulling the community for a better field. I think the number of parents opting to use the JCB/JCA policy speak volumes as to community feelings, as well as the number of speakers at meetings over the past 5 months. If the board chooses to proceed forward with this poll, which I do see as personally unnecessary at this time, I do believe This needs to be done sooner than later and prior to a roundtable discussion that has also been presented. I don't feel that the roundtable discussion is necessary at this time either, for all options have been brought forth to this board to date. Stay in Manchester, Manchester plus choice, and a single contracted choice. Now I feel it's up to this board to discover and research which option is viable and best for our community. Once the data has been collected and analyzed, if the board would then like to sit with the community to better inform them, i.e. educate of the best viable option, then I think that would be a great opportunity. I do support this board in the recent letters sent to Manchester regarding class size and the redistricting plan set forth by Manchester. I feel it's best for Manchester to know we as a community are paying close attention and care about our kids that are there. Definitely the time has come to be proactive, and we need to stand as one. I just wanted to give you a little FYI. I always read the Manchester School Board things. Nothing has been updated, like, since I spoke 4 weeks ago. They're not putting in anything. So somehow, I would like to get to one of those meetings. But thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the board? There being no one else, we will move on to reports. We have reports of administrators. We start with Raj.
Yes, this month, one of the focuses is our math pilot. We've had a lot of time and attention in that area. Becky has arranged for visits for us. Last month, we were able to have a very large group attend or visit the Effingham School District and see Math in Focus in session. And that was in grades K through, I believe, 8. We also have visits planned for the Go Math program on March 12th, and the new one is March 13th and 14th. Questionnaires have gone out to parents and students, and we'll be getting the teachers together soon to begin formulating plans to see if we need any additional information and to begin making some decisions. Also, we will be planning the Smarter Balance pilot. We will be piloting the new assessment this spring, and I believe we're going to try to do each grade. I'm not sure if we'll do both subjects, but we'll be planning that this month for a pilot administration, probably in April. So that's our area.
No, I have a question in the pilot. The pilot isn't going to be adapted based on what the
Right.
student needs. No.
They're really looking at piloting their test questions and giving us the opportunity to see what the test looks like. We were not chosen for what they call the scientific sample, but we were able to voluntarily experience the test, and that will give us a sense of how the technology works. It will also give us a sense of all the test questions and how the students respond to it. And it will give teachers the opportunity to see the test questions and see what the kids are going to be expected to do.
Thank you.
Next slide.
So some of the updates that have occurred at Underhill School over the past month. Our yearly parent information night for incoming registration, kindergarten registrations and first grade registrations happened on February 21st. So we had a number of school employees, Mrs. Willette, Mrs. McAndrew, Mrs. Libby, our school nurse, and Mrs. Lynch and Mrs. Boucher, along with Mrs. St. Pierre and myself. Hosted about 70 parents who came to receive some information and some registration packets. That's pretty consistent, a little bit lower of a number of attendees from past years. However, it gives us a good start as far as knowing, getting at least a decent forecast on what we might be able to expect. They're holding it a little bit earlier. The past 2 years, we've held it a little bit earlier than in the past, so we can get as much information up front as possible, so we can plan as best as possible. We have, over the course of the last few weeks of February, we had our faculty looking through and reviewing some of the assessments that have been completed over the last couple of weeks. Teachers will take that information and use it to reflect on their instruction and to hone their instruction for the final third of the school year. We hosted some students from Cawley. Matt shared 30 of the students. They came down to read to our kids in various classrooms. They brought down a book that was age appropriate, and I think both Cawley students and other adult students benefited from the experience. Linda Harrington from Cawley and Miriam Boucher and Ellen Villela organized that between the two schools, and so it was nice to see some faces and siblings, and there were a lot of kids that came down from Cawley and enjoyed seeing their old teachers as well, so it was a nice connection. And finally, I'll steal this from the other two principals. We have Parent Information Night, so anybody listening at home, March 7th. Excuse me, not a parent information night, a website information collection night, I guess, where we'll be getting some input from parents as we're looking to put together our website or revamp our website. We're just looking for some input from parents and find out what people would like out of a school district and school website. So, sorry, guys. Okay.
Yeah, so Mr. Barstow did steal that point from us in regards to, you know, that creation of a new website that we're going to have in our Hooksett School District. So we're looking forward to being able to do that. I have a couple of things to highlight. First off, in regards to that meeting, I have the wrong date listed under my calendar. It says 3/6, it should be 3/7. I just noticed that as we were talking, so I apologize on that. And I have just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. I had listed some happenings at HMS, and it was taking a look at some of the things going on in the classrooms and some of the 5th grade classes, working on a space unit in Mrs. CPEC, doing some unique things with that, as well as a couple of field trips that our students attended in 5th grade and 4th grade. With the 4th grade, having an opportunity to go to the State House, and then also to meet the new governor, Hassan. So it was a great opportunity for half of our students who went on the first day. The other half didn't have an opportunity because the governor was not in at that particular, or on that particular day. Also Miss Champagne's class in 4th grade, and she's been doing this for a couple years now, doing a kid vlog, and it's been a great way for the kids to participate from home, for parents to see information, and for the kids to really respond in a meaningful way about their work. So it's been a great exercise in that realm. The other thing that I want to highlight, and it's a random act of kindness that goes along with our 50th anniversary, and let's see, because the 5th grade class wanted to remain anonymous, and let me see if I can get through this without saying the class's name. They were, a group of students raised $400 for Heifer International, which is an organization, if you're not familiar with it. Heifer International raises money and buys basically farm animals, access to clean water, things of that nature for people in other countries, and really help to support that. And the students have really brought this as a full, you know, giving back to the world community. Today, I walked into the computer lab, and the classroom, all the students were working in partner groups. They were doing some research as to what animals they wanted to buy and where they wanted to donate them to. And they were taking a look at the $400 and dividing it up and figuring out what gave the most bang for the buck and supported the most I want to say the most lives and the most success. So it was a nice thing to see, really full circle, how students were looking at this. So from the financial raising to the actual giving. So I was very pleased to see that. Well, I'll give them.
So we're going to continue with the plug of Thursday's night's big event with the principals, coffee and snacks, okay? And to spend an hour with the Hooksett principals at 6:30 at Hooksett Memorial School to get input on our new website. So if you know anyone out there, we're looking forward to seeing you. Big month at Colley. It's middle school month, where we celebrate our students and their accomplishments and as they work hard to get through the social and emotional changes in their lives. We have numerous events. This week is Foreign Language Week. We have Literacy Week next week, our annual dodgeball tournament where teams sign up and $10 to play, $1 per person. We donate that to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Our new National Junior Honor Society selection process is underway with students submitting applications. And our induction ceremony will be March 27th. I did attend, I went to Epping Middle High School with Mrs. Pollock and Mrs. Wing to the Math and Focus visit to observe the, spoke with middle school teachers and observed a 5th grade teacher. Our assistant principal, Kimberly Organic, and Mrs. Matthews, Susan Matthews, presented on 21st Century Learning at the annual New Hampshire Association of School Principals. It's a new administrators workshop. And our Colley commanders continue to shine. We continue to get requests. They've been helping out with Google Apps in education, working with different teachers on Blogger, and we continue to get positive comments. Our 8th grade meetings are scheduled for our Washington, D.C. field trip. This year's 8th grade, that meeting is March 18th, and obviously the trip's in April, and then next year's trip is in November, and that meeting for parents is Monday, March 18th. Actually, the 28th, March 28th. So, and Project Safeguard is Friday for our 7th grade class, and we are hoping that there's no snow, because they're looking to go.
I have received some feedback that some places it says that the March 18th meeting is on a Thursday and March 18th is on a Monday.
Yeah, we fixed that. We sent out an email to parents today, and we did change it on the website.
And I want to tell both you and Mr. Harrison that I had the privilege of attending the state spelling bee, and both of our students were very professional and did their very best throughout the competition.
Okay.
Just have a few highlights to go over with you. Something we're very excited about in the special ed department is to be working collaboratively with our attorney and other special ed districts across the state to update our eligibility forms. I feel this would be a strong contribution to the teachers, the administrators, and the parents to make sure that we're all working through the process together. So we're very excited about that. We'll be having training sessions. I need to do a date revision. It says the 12th. I'm going to report that we're rescheduling for the 18th, 19th, or 20th. So we are eager to be looking at that. We're also gearing up. The months of March and April will be highly publicizing the importance of those parent involvement surveys. They will be actually sent home to families, I believe, May 11th. So we'll be spreading the word, really making sure that our families feel included and are getting the knowledge that they need about the special education process. And we've also begun gearing up to plan for what is needed for our students for this summer to ensure that we'll be ready to go and have plans solidified in a timely manner. Thank you very much.
We're going to move on to the reports of standing committees. David, do you have anything to report from the individual?
I have nothing.
Joe? The only committee that I'm on that has met is I'm on the professional development committee, and they met today and are going over how there's, what the best way to utilize their professional development money is, and information on portfolios, which if you have any questions, Marge can help you better. I'm still baffled by the whole process. Item B under reports is report of 8th grade teachers visiting Manchester Central and Manchester High School West. Is that you? Okay.
I know the confusion too with the Washington DC. So the 18th, March 18th, is the meeting at 6 o'clock for this year's current 8th grade. For this year's current 7th grade, they have a meeting with parents on Thursday, March 28th at 6 o'clock. And I'm just putting that on the calendar right now, so that's why. And I tried to, it's confusing, but we're sending separate emails and separate notices to 7th grade parents and the 8th grade parents. So, because that has come up a couple times, but it is. Let me find my notes here. So I believe at the last board meeting I was asked by school board member Dubas for a report of something in writing. And the 8th grade teachers put together a report and basically of their visits. We are short one visit right now, and we will be going to West High School for our science visit this month. I just received an email today, so that will complete our visits. Basically, as it notes in the report, our teachers were highly impressed with both schools in attending it. They were greeted. They were able to sit and talk about curriculum, the placement of our students, are we placing our students correctly, some of the things that, the gaps and the challenges, and some of the strengths that the college students have. And most importantly, we built that communication. So moving forward, when we start scheduling the West and Central visits, we're going to be in better contact with getting our students what they need when they go to the Manchester schools. For example, for summer assignments in all the different classes. It's always kind of been up in the air. We get some here, we don't get some. But this year we'll be able to have that for the summer. My goal is also to get that to the Hooksett Library, because I know a lot of the students get some of those required items down there too. So I don't want to certainly read the report to you, but it's been nothing but positive on both ends. We did follow up with a math content meeting where we were able to invite over a math teacher from Central High School and West High School. They were formerly known as the department heads of the Blix, and that's why we reached out to those two. But they currently don't have that position at the high schools anymore. So, but everyone's been supportive, easy to communicate with, and it's just been extremely valuable for us.
Thank you very much. Did anyone have any questions for that?
So this wasn't in place beforehand? Is this sort of a new venture?
Well, I don't know if it was a new venture. I believe when Mr. Pedro and Ms. Wayne were the assistant principals, there was a part of a high school summit where I believe the middle schools in Manchester and I believe Cawley and maybe Candy was involved. They attended, I think, several of these during the year. Just moving forward and over the last year or two, I realized that we need to get on the same page. We need to communicate better. We need to find out a better way that we can see how our students are doing when they go to Central and West High School and track that. They've been very supportive. Always communicating when we reach out, but we just want to further it, discuss where we're heading with the Common Core. They want to find out what we're doing here at Cawley. So I just thought it was a good way to find out. The other thing that we truly believe we're doing the right thing, but when we place students in levels, and what levels are we doing the right thing? What are the high school teachers saying halfway through a school year? Did we place the student correctly? And we do that with high expectations.
now into old business, Manchester High School issues.
Madam Chair, I have something I'd like to put on the projector screen if we can. And, while that's coming up, I'd like to make the following motion, and then if I can get a second, I'll speak to it. I motion that the Hooksett School Board direct Superintendent Littlefield, with the assistance of the district's attorney, to write a letter to the State Board of Education informing the board that we are referring the contract dispute with Manchester to them under paragraph 4C and 14 of the Manchester High School Maintenance Agreement. Further, that we request a hearing at the earliest convenience. The letter shall be ready for the board members to approve via email by 3/12/13. Upon approval, be sent to the State Board of Education and CC to the chairman of the Manchester School Board of School Committee.
A second for discussion, sir.
Thank you. For the benefit of the public, I put this up on the board, and I hope you can see it. This is what I'm basing this action on. As you can see in the 2/15/13 letter from the Manchester Board of School Committee, it stated that the Manchester Board of School Committee denies the claim that it has breached the high school maintenance agreement with the Hooksett School District. That's very clearly stated. Because of this, we need to look at the high school maintenance agreement, paragraph 4C, which states that if any other party to this agreement, including the Manchester School District, disputes the existence of the asserted material breach or default, the dispute shall be submitted to resolution under the terms of paragraph 14. When we look at paragraph 14, which is the next one on the bottom, disputes, should any school district have a complaint as to the operation of the agreement or the calculation of the district's share of expenses, that complaint shall be stated in writing to the Manchester Superintendent of Schools. If the Superintendent of Manchester School District and the Superintendent of the complaining sending district cannot resolve this dispute, it shall be presented to the Manchester School Board, which shall in good faith attempt to resolve this dispute. Should this resolution prove impossible, the dispute shall be referred to the State Board of Education for a decision in accordance with Administrative Rules ED 200, which decisions may be appealed to a court of competent jurisdiction. So I am looking at Manchester's letter and the actions that our superintendent has taken with Dr. Brennan from Manchester to try to resolve this issue. And I've come to the conclusion that our superintendents were unable to resolve this. I'm looking at the letter from the Manchester Board of School Committee, which denies that a material breach exists. And therefore, I'm making this motion to refer this matter to the State Board of Education for our contract. That's all I have now.
Now, if we were to make this, approve this motion, who do you think should write that letter? I'm not saying we should or we shouldn't, I'm just,
Well, my motion directs the superintendent to write the letter with the assistance of the district's attorney. I think whatever letter is written would end up being from the superintendent, but obviously he is going to want to seek the advice of the attorney that it's a legal matter. I think quite clearly by the contract that this is the avenue that we're supposed to follow. As I look at the contract, the 180 days is only going to be relevant if Manchester agreed that they were in breach. Because 180 days is a remedy period. But because they have denied the assertion of material breach, in essence, in their view, there is nothing to remedy. And that's where the contract states that we move to paragraph 14, which says that we refer to the Board of Ed. So that's why I'm following this path.
no, Dr. Littlefield, I don't have the letter with me, but the letter that Manchester sent to us, was that CC to the Department of Education, or was it just sent to the Hooksett School Board?
I believe it was just sent to the Hooksett School Board. And in fact, I happen to have the letter with me. And it was CC, the letter was to the Hooksett School Board, CC to me and to the Manchester School Committee. That was it.
So I'm not sure what our first step should be. Should we notify the Department of Education that they're denying that we say there's a breach? Do we jump right in and say they've denied, we want you to hear us? Or do we refer this to our lawyer?
Well, I'm willing to guess that Dr. Littlefield will probably include the Manchester letter as proof that they have denied the breach. It's pretty clear when you read that letter, the quote is that they deny any assertion of breach. So, to me, it is time to refer it to the Board of Education and seek a hearing. I don't think that there's any benefit in waiting 180 days. I don't think it's relevant under the contract, and I don't think that there's any remedy that's being taken place. So at this point, I think we should refer it to the Board of Ed.
I'm just trying to formulate my thoughts. I guess I do have some concern with doing this at this moment. We didn't get to have our non-meeting today, which I would have wanted to refer to our council regarding this and whether this truly is the next move. So I am hesitant. Although, however, at the same time, under the Manchester High School issue, I did want to discuss what else we should be doing or could be doing. I did also hear about some things that Candia did that I found very interesting and wanted to bring up and discuss as well. If we could do them, simply because we did already deploy breach, number one, but number two, if that was also another avenue we wanted to go down. So at this time, I would not be able to support this motion.
Just for the benefit of the audience, we had a SAU meeting at which Candia was present, and they shared with us how they're dealing with the Manchester problem. And to paraphrase what was said, they have not filed breach, but they are writing letters to virtually everyone that they believe is involved. Their state representatives, the Board of Ed, and all of these types of things. I would say that they are in a different position because they have not filed breach. Having filed breach, we have filed a formal complaint, and therefore, I believe we need to follow the contract, which, as I put up here, stipulates exactly what we're supposed to do. And having received a letter from Manchester now, finally, we have got the answer about whether they agree whether we're in breach or whether we're not. So I think we're now compelled by the contract to move forward. And I don't look at it as my opinion. I look at it as I represent the citizens of Hooksett who signed that contract, and I have to interpret that contract and do what it says. So on the other side, I looked at what's the downside here. And I don't see a downside because if the Board of Ed answers our request and tells us that they're not going to take it up now or that they're going to take it up at another time, we will have a formal answer from the Board of Education as to what process we're now following. Right now, I believe if we're waiting 180 days, we are not following the proper process in the contract. So if that is the proper process, I believe let the Board of Ed tell us that, and then we will have that letter to go on. So that's why I think that we should refer this to the Board of Ed now.
Who would formally notify us that they were denied? I mean, does that formally come from the superintendent, or I would believe that letter would have come from the board, the Board of School Committee? That's the thing that concerns me. Is that really their official letter saying that they are denying the breach?
I have it here.
I don't have the letter in front of me, so I can't
Go ahead.
The letter, excuse me, the letter does begin, and it is authored or signed by Superintendent Brennan. The letter begins with the Manchester Board of School Committee denies the claim, etc. So I think there are many times when I write a letter on behalf of the board. I have a tendency to write them on behalf of the board so that it's clear. But there's no doubt in my mind that this letter that we received on February 15th, that Superintendent Brennan was directed to write by the board.
Thank you.
I would also offer that the letter does not talk about any remedy. So not only are they denying the breach, but they're not discussing any viable remedy to this problem. So I think that does prompt us to follow the contract and refer this to the Board of Ed.
Having just gotten this, I'm not sure I know what the right step to take is at this moment, but I'm wondering, David, if we, instead of, I know we have a motion on the floor to direct the superintendent to do it. Do you think it would be prudent to have him and the lawyer investigate that part of it and be ready to discuss it in our non-public meeting with him when we meet with him on the 19th?
Well, I guess I would say no, based on the language that I quoted from the contract. I think that when you look at the contract from the point where it says, if material breach is denied, if you look at it from that point on, it's very clear what you're supposed to do. So I think prior to the denial, there was a lot of supposing about what was going to go on. But I think when you look at the contract from that point, it says, if that happens, you must resolve it with Chapter 14. And if you go to Chapter 14, it says superintendents, the Board of Manchester, and if there's no resolution, if it's impossible, then it goes to the Board of Ed. I look at this letter from Manchester Board and I say, it's impossible. I didn't go into some of the other language that's in this letter, but there's nothing in this letter that gives me any gleam of hope that Manchester is on the way to resolving this problem. So when I read the contract, I can confidently say, yes, it's impossible that they're going to resolve it. We've seen Dr. Littlefield and Dr. Brennan have actually been assigned, I believe, twice to talk about this, and they came back 2 times with no resolution. So at this point, I think it's prudent for us to move it to the Board of Ed, and I'm confident that Dr. Littlefield can state our case in a letter with the help of our attorney. I mean, he's done a very good job of representing us in letters so far about class size and so forth. So I think we should move. I think the sooner that we can get a hearing on this problem, the better. Or if we don't get a hearing, perhaps we're going to get some further direction on where we're supposed to go. Unfortunately, our meeting with the attorney was canceled today. We are now looking at another 2 weeks. We're going to wait for that. And I'm able to read this information. I'm able to process it. I think it's very clear. Can I ask for a roll call, please?
Opposed?
Yes.
Opposed at this time. I don't want to be finished with the issue. I'm just not sure I'm 100% comfortable with sending the letter, not having had the opportunity to sit with our lawyer with what you've
brought to us and discuss it with him, or to have Dr. Littlefield discuss it before we send a letter that says, this is our interpretation, because my understanding when this contract was written, there were a lot of lawyers in the room, and they still have this, there are still things in our contract that not everybody agrees on what they meant when they were sitting in the room. So I would be much more comfortable entertaining something that we directed the superintendent, I think that's the right word, directed, to investigate this issue further for us.
Well, I would point out, Madam Chair, that my motion included the board approval of the letter that Dr. Littlefield would write. So I would offer that that would have given us some time during the time he's writing that to research that, or to ask the attorney for supporting information if we need to do that. I think that we run the risk here, which is very, well, I think we run the risk here of not following the contract. Because as I read the contract, as a school board member at Hooksett, it directs me to refer this to the Board of Ed, because the qualifying things have happened, and that is the recourse that is stipulated in the contract. We cannot, we have to resolve this problem through the contract first, before any other actions can be taken. So, to me, it's very clear that we should be moving ahead at this point. I would certainly entertain some motion that would, not that it's my purview to entertain a motion, it's yours, but I would certainly be interested in any motion that would move this forward in any manner, because I am obviously convinced that it should be moved ahead.
I would like to make a motion to direct the superintendent to discuss with our attorney because I don't that directs the superintendent to have discussions with our attorney regarding paragraphs 4C and 14 of the Manchester High School maintenance agreement, and be prepared to discuss a letter being sent by the Hooksett School District to the Board of Education at our non-meeting with our attorney later in the month of March. I'll entertain a second and then speak to my motion.
I'll second it for discussion.
I'm not opposed to writing a letter to the Board of Education if that is what we are advised is our best course of action through our attorney. At this point in our interactions with Manchester regarding our breach, we are in a legal negotiation with them, whether they're speaking to us or not speaking to us, and I think we need to do our due diligence and make sure that we are doing everything that we need to be doing with the with the advice of our attorney. And I don't feel that writing this letter without his being engaged in a conversation with us is us doing our due diligence. I'm not completely sure that I comprehend every line in that contract with the intent it was meant when it was written. And I feel that our attorney is the best person to give us advice on that. And as being a reflective practitioner in my school board duties, I feel that sometimes you have to take and listen to what experts in their given field say. And I'm not an expert on the high school maintenance agreement, and I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for the students of Hooksett and the community.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Well, I would disagree that we're in a legal negotiation with Manchester, because we're not. We're exercising the contract under the statements in the contract. And I'm not claiming that I understand every facet of the contract, but I understand the two statements in the contract of denying material breach and how that dispute is resolved. And I would be glad to go over it here and to look at that, but if the attorney is going to give us advice about strategy, that's quite different. But I am looking at what the contract says, and that's how the contract says to execute this problem. So I don't think that there is any need to wait what will be another 2 weeks, and will be 2 weeks further down the road when the motion directs that the superintendent would write the letter with the assistance of the attorney, and that the school board would approve it. So I would offer that we could be a lot farther ahead than we're going to be. So, you know, I don't want to support that motion. I think it's incumbent upon us to read the language of the contract and to take action.
As I stated before, I would prefer really giving on.
Are you comfortable with him doing research before we meet, so he's prepared to? That's kind of what I'm, and maybe it's not worded the best, trying to make sure that Gordon knows that this is something that we want discussed and have him prepared to discuss it with us, having things for us to read before or whatever. Because I think sometimes when you get in a meeting with your lawyer and everybody's not on the same page prepared for what you want to talk about, it can go in different directions. But if he knows this is something that we want to consider, and for him to have done research, there's other cases he could quote or legal jargon that they get you when you go to a lawyer meeting.
I don't want to reveal any of the discussions about our non-meeting, but I think I'm safe to say that we have discussed this contract for hours. And we have also discussed the fact that there is really no comparison case.
But we haven't discussed with our attorney 4C and 14. Like, that's not something that we've discussed.
Well, I don't want to get into what we discussed in particular, because I think then we're going outside of what we're supposed to do. I'm confident with the language. I don't want to see us stall out on this, but it's your motion, and I'm not in support.
Okay, I'll call the motion to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion fails 2-1. Under the high school issue, Dr. Littlefield, I do have a question for you. It has been brought to my attention recently that many students asking for tours of the Manchester high schools have been denied, and I'm wondering if we know that to be factual, that tours are not being given. It was stated recently in a Hooksett Banner editorial that there was a student that was given a tour. Do we know what the policy is with the Manchester School District in reference to high school students being given tours?
No.
We don't know what the policy is?
No, I'm being a wise guy. And I would really encourage, when people have questions like that, because I spend 2/3 of my professional life on Manchester issues, that those questions be directed to Manchester.
Okay.
So if they request a tour and the answer is no, if it's central, I would encourage people to call the central principal.
Okay, it is the central principal, it's my understanding that he's denied tours.
Then I would then call the superintendent and ask what the policy is of the school district. I have brought this very issue to the attention of the Manchester Board of Schools. And I think it was during one of our Candia meetings. I mentioned the fact that some school districts that we don't have a relationship with were being very receptive to giving tours. And that Manchester had the sales job to do, and that we encourage them to do that. I think, and Matt, I don't know, you might be able to help me on this. I think there is one point during youngsters making their course selections and so forth, that they do have the ability to go and visit the school, or there's an open house, but I don't think it's on demand. If I could. Yeah.
That is correct. So Weston Central will come over here sometime at the end of March, early April. Then they'll plan for an open house where traditional open house like we have for incoming 5th graders to 6th graders, where they can do tours. That is correct. Students, there are students that have not been granted tours at the high school.
The rub here is, I'm not going to stick my nose into some of this, but early resolution to some of this is beneficial. Our kids will get a tour.
Our kids will get a tour.
There is, now I have Manchester's glasses on right now. There is no need to schedule individual tours now with my Manchester glasses on. Because youngsters shouldn't be shopping for a high school. Their high school is central. So, I mean, you see how that works. There are things that really have frustrated, I think, all of us over the last several months. This one, I almost understand that those tours will be available during the course selection process. Is our youngsters prepared to go to the high school with their
What up?
I know other school districts have been very flexible in granting tours, but we have no relationship with those other schools.
Is there a reason, and I don't know, I have 5th graders, is there a reason that the tours are so late? Because in Hooksett, we do have a choice in Manchester. You can go to Central, or if you live on the east side of the river, you go to Central. If you live on the west side, you go to Memorial, unless you petition to ask differently. And you could also be considering Trinity, Derryfield, or a private school, and those deadlines are much earlier. But if you went to Central and all the bells and whistles went off, you wouldn't have to put your family through an expensive Trinity or Derryfield.
I would answer that by saying, I don't want to be answering questions that may be defensive of Manchester. I would say that the time frame is a reasonable time frame, and what I'm used to in terms of the middle school to high school transition here and elsewhere. I think our unique set of circumstances is we do have people who have been shopping for, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all, who have been shopping for a high school. And I can understand how disruptive it can be to have youngsters coming and touring while school is in session. I know I protect that dearly here in Hooksett, those types of interruptions. So that would sort of be my response.
Madam Chair, next question.
1 second.
I will let you know in the last year and this year, I've talked to the principals of both Weston Central and our guidance department. We all agree that Weston Central, when they come over there for their presentations, needs to be later in March, early in April than what it has been in the past, as it helps us and our students and our teachers in properly putting students in the correct class. It was way too early, and that's why we moved to that. But that is correct what Dr. Littlefield said. Every student will get a tour, and then generally, just like we do here at Crawley, after orientation night, any student or parent who wants to come for a private tour, after that, over the summer, we welcome you with open arms.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, do they get a tour while school's going, or is it an open house in the evening?
It's an open house in the evening, but they also, I believe, get an additional thing. Not 100% sure, but there is a freshman, what do they call it, freshman academies that they do either at the end of the school year or the beginning of the school year.
Right, I guess what I'm saying is, I understand Dr. Littlefield's situation. I'm just trying to be clear if we're talking tour versus open house. Because I look at a tour as something where you're walking through an operation while it's operating, and an open house where you're going and seeing a presentation at night, and maybe they walk you through the school and show you the classrooms and all.
I believe
There's a difference,
It's
that's
the
all
latter.
I'm saying. Okay,
Yeah, it's the latter.
thank you.
I think the point that brought this up, and then we can move on, is that it appears some people got tours during the day at the beginning of the year and other people were denied. And I just was asked to bring it up, and that's why I brought it up. In fairness, that all students are treated equal and there's no preferential treatment. We're moving on to okay, I'm sorry.
For the benefit of the public, I would just like to thank Dr. Littlefield. We have sent our second letter to Manchester since we've been surveying the class sizes. Things have stayed pretty much the same in this 2-week period. We were able to get West numbers for this letter, but it has been a bit of work for him to get these numbers from them and to get them together, and it looks like we are on a 2-week cycle now. So I just wanted to thank him for getting that out, and we just got the last one before this meeting, so we are doing that as we had voted to do. So just wanted to let the public know that. Thank you.
Is there anything else under Manchester High School issues? Item B, Technology Expendable Trust Fund. It's tabled till our March 19th meeting. We are at the point in the meeting where we have a break. What is the pleasure of the board? I'd like to take a brief recess to use the bathroom. We've got 5 minutes. Students to attend a high school modern record. I'd like to make a motion that, hold on. I'd like to make a motion to approve Justin Swalgen, I apologize if I pronounce that wrong, to attend Pinkerton Academy starting the 2013-2014 academic year.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Item B, High School Roundtable Planning Committee charge.
Madam Chair, I motion that we accept this charge as follows. The Hooksett High School Roundtable Planning Committee charge. Established by the Hooksett School Board, the Hooksett High School Roundtable Planning Committee will plan an event to collect input from parents and citizens regarding current and future high school issues facing Hooksett. The committee shall plan an event to take place in the spring of 2013 and include as many participants as possible. The committee will structure the event in such a way to produce useful data for the Hooksett School Board and citizens of Hooksett. The committee should consist of 2 school board members. The committee will present a plan at the 3/19/13 school board meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Just so that I'm clear, so this would include being able to get input regarding our next opt-out, which is 2016. That would include that. You say future, but I just wanted to be sure that was also included.
Well, I don't want to speak for a yet-to-be-formed committee, because at this point, it is the charge. I tried to make it as inclusive as possible, saying, current and future high school issues facing folks. So My opinion would be yes, but, you know, I don't wanna suppose
So
what the.
my point is, it's not excluded then.
I wouldn't think that it would be.
Any other questions for David? Thank you very much. All those in favor of David's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Madam Chair, can we nominate two school board members, because otherwise I don't think we'll make the deadline.
Absolutely.
So I would nominate myself to serve on that committee.
Have you spoken to Mike? Is he interested, not interested?
Mike, I spoke to Mike today on the phone. He said he would take it if no one else wanted it. To ensure that we would have two people before.
Cheryl, are you interested in that? You made a motion to accept yourself, to appoint yourself, correct?
Yes, we could deal with that one first if you like.
Okay, I'll second that motion. All those in favor of signify by saying aye and approving David to be on the high school roundtable planning committee.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. I think I will defer to Mike.
I'll make a motion that we nominate Mike Dubus to serve on the Hooksett High School Roundtable Planning Committee.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. We have the calculation of capital costs and materials provided in the packet.
I make a motion to accept the calculation of the capital cost as presented by Karen.
Second. I will speak to it. I'm just trying to.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I'm pretty sure. So basically, for the benefit of the public, what we're doing here, my understanding is we are changing the way that the capital cost is split up now between Candia and Hooksett. This kind of came out of the SAU meeting that we had last week. And instead of splitting that cost based on the number of students that are attending Manchester, this would enter into an agreement where we're going to split it based on the number of public high school students we have. There were some concerns with large numbers of students that may be going to different high schools, that this number could fluctuate and put that figure kind of out of balance. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what we're doing here.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. And the next item is item D, student transportation proposal. This is information in our packet from Karen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Brought to student transportation, and it was a letter to Karen.
I Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Is that, yes. Sorry.
That's okay.
So this is basically a proposal from Student Transportation of America based on a conversation I had had with them earlier in the year, and then I had brought that information to the board. And this is their proposal to issue us a 5-year contract. The rates are on there. It's an increase of 3% each year over the course of the 5 years. They are acknowledging that they had some issues with getting drivers this year, and in doing so, they are increasing the rate they are paying the drivers in hopes that that will help them attract more people. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer. I will have an official contract from them probably for your next meeting. They're working on that right now, so I should have that put in the packet for the next meeting.
So is this more for our information, or do you need to have us vote this evening?
It's for your information. If you're comfortable voting this evening, that's fine. If you'd rather have the contract in hand first, I understand that, and we can wait until the next meeting for that.
I'd rather see the contract first, thank you.
Item E, we have field trip requests, approval and a ratification.
I'll make a motion to accept the request for field trip to the Minuteman National Historic Park.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. We have a ratification in our packet.
I'll make a motion to accept the ratification of the request for the educational field trip to the Engineers Week sponsorship of R&D and science-related activities.
I couldn't hear you very well, I'm
Phillips
sorry.
Healthcare.
Yeah, my master register.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Okay, we're on review of the manifest.
I do not have a manifest. I make a motion to accept the manifest in the amount of $724,287.52.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Can I have the number again?
724
Yeah.
287 and 52 cents.
Seconded by Trish.
David, and the motion carried 3-0. Budget adjustments.
Trish, I do have an addition to the budget adjustments if the board wouldn't mind entertaining that. It just came to my attention today, we have several tables at Underhill that need to be replaced. So we'd like to move $780 from the Underhill Science Supply account to the furniture account at Underhill so that we can replace those tables. They're falling apart, they're not very safe, and we really should get them replaced before something happens.
I make a motion that we approve the budget adjustments as added to the SR.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
And then agenda procedures, item H.
Yeah, I just asked to have this put on because we had a couple of agenda items over the last couple of meetings that were a little confusing regarding transportation. And I just think that we should adopt a policy that whoever asks for something to be put on speaks to it. And we were kind of looking around at each other and we didn't really know what that item was. So I don't know if we, just wanted to bring it up, and then I guess it's really up to the chair to assign someone to speak to it. But as I asked for this to be on, I speak to it, so I keep asking if
That confusion was partly my fault. I wasn't sure if we were supposed to speak on something that was brought up from the public.
I'm much clearer on, it's on, from the public when they ask for something on the agenda to speak to it.
That's fine, thank you.
Any questions, Sharon? Item I, school board policy, BHC and BCA. The information is included in our packet.
May I? The reason I brought this up is that as we were talking about the policy that restricts school board members from communicating with staff, which we talked about over the last couple of meetings, I then, when I looked at BCA, which are school district member ethics, number 9 says, seek systematic communications with students, staff, and members of the community. And I think that that's in conflict with our other policy, which was BHC. Because to me, systematic communications with staff would be contrary to us communicating directly with the staff, like we were talking about at the last meeting. Further, systematic, I would tend to argue, was more of what I was involved in, which was asking for opinions over a broad section of the teachers. I would see that as being more systematic than maybe just asking one teacher what they felt about something. And frankly, the reason that I did it was to allow all the teachers to have the same opportunity if they chose to share their opinions with me. So to me, I like BCA, but I don't see how we square that with BHC.
I guess I'm not seeing if you seek systematic communication, communicating through the superintendent is the system by which we follow. Like, so I'm not really sure how.
Well, it says here, seek systematic communications with the staff, students, and members of the community. I don't think that we're, if we're going to read the word superintendent into that, are we expecting the superintendent to systematically set up something for us to talk to the community and students as well? I don't think we can read the word superintendent in there.
Well, we can definitely, if you feel there's a conflict, we can refer this to the policy committee, but it's not typical procedure of the Hudson School Board to fix policies while we're sitting at the table. We have a policy committee that reviews the policies that are communicated by the state that we need to make sure are updated, and Kathy Richards, who keeps the binder of policies up to date for all new school board members, keeps a very detailed log. I also sit on the policy committee that we're reviewing all of our policies, whether the state is saying, the New Hampshire School Board Association is saying this needs to be updated because the law changed. We are also continually updating all of our policies and making sure they're reviewed. So that is something that we could send back to the policy committee for clarification, but it's not typically something that the board does at the table.
Well, Madam Chair, I understand how the policy committee works, and I don't think that we would send it back to them for clarification, because this is approved by the Hudson School Board. We are bound by this, and as great a job as Kathy Richards does, she does not determine the policy. We do. And right now, we have two policies that I believe are in conflict. I offered a motion at the last meeting to rectify this. I was voted down. I'm seeking guidance from this board because based on this, I can seek systematic communications with the staff. And actually, this is ethics, which it says that I shall comply with the following ethic provisions. And actually, if you want to read into the word shall, this actually means that I have to. Because this does not say I can. This says each board member shall comply with the following ethic provisions. Seek communications with students, staff, and members of the community.
But we do have a system that when we want feedback from the teachers,
we direct the superintendent to seek such communication with the teachers or the staff of what we're interested in knowing about. And as we received today, at the last meeting with Dr. Littlefield, we directed him to get communication on LCD projector monitors. I needed to make sure I was calling it the right thing, that's why I looked up. And we received it. That's the system that's set up in the Hooksett School District that follows all fair labor practices, and there's the recommendation of the New Hampshire School Board Association that that's how we communicate. That's the system in a public school setting.
So that system provides one-way communication that you just described. I have no way to communicate to staff members. And I would also ask, are we setting up systematic communications with the students? Because I don't think we're doing that.
Well, we were prior to your entering the board, but you don't want thematic meetings, which where students came and communicated what they were doing. But you don't want that type of meeting.
Well,
That's communication.
You're characterizing what I guess what I would vote on. I'm saying to you that...
No, I'm not characterizing. You did vote. You did vote. You did not want thematic meetings. Am I correct that you said that? We, for 15 years prior, the first meeting was this kind of meeting, and the second meeting was thematic, where the ALFs came, and the robotics team may come, and Team Yale might come, and different groups came and presented to us, or the administration provided different feedback on certain things that were going on. And when you and Mike came on the board a year ago, you didn't like that kind of meeting anymore, so we weren't getting that kind of communication from students.
Well, Madam Chair, I would say that subject is something for another
But that is a form of systematic communication with students. I mean, we're not gonna come in the building and walk up to a student and say, so how's life going? Yes, Cheryl.
I agree. I think it's fair that the communication systematically, we do go through the superintendent, or we make a decision as a board as to what communication we want or that we need. And I do think that there are opportunities such as what we had before to understand what's going on with students and staff through some of those other school board meetings. I think it's pretty clear, and that's my opinion.
Well, I will concede to the board's consensus on this issue, and I did refrain tonight from calling point of order during this meeting, but I would like to inform you that I will be calling point of order when any member of this board addresses the staff directly, because that is a clear violation of BHC. When the principals give their reports, the questions are not to be directed at the principals, but they're to be directed at the superintendent. I think that's pretty clear, and I think if we're going to follow this policy, then I think we have to follow it. Thank you.
Item J, response to public comment. All of the public comment that we received at the last meeting, we answered directly during our response the last time. Does anyone feel on the board at this time that any of the questions that were brought forward you're comfortable addressing now, or would you like it to go to the next meeting? David?
I think I really want to read them over. I think that they handed them in to us, and I just would rather read that to be thorough and comment. I didn't take thorough notes tonight.
Okay, thank you. We're up to item 9 on the agenda, opportunity for the public to address the board. Is there anyone in the public that has anything they'd like to say to us?
John Liscars, 142 Hackett Hill Road. With regards to answering questions from public comment, you're pretty good every week about answering comments and being detailed about it. I specifically asked a question about our contract in section 9. I asked you to consult your lawyer about it. I didn't hear anything about that tonight. I'd like you to consider that.
Could I ask you, when did you ask us that question to consult?
Public input last meeting.
Okay, we have not met with our attorney since the last time we met. At the end of the meeting, if you could present the question, bring the question back, I'll write it down and make sure that at our next meeting with our attorney that we're taking care of.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like you to ask Manchester about a state requirement about digital portfolios for their students. Are they in compliance with that? And if they are, if you can get a detailed response on how they're complying with digital portfolios for the high school students. Just have a question about our bus contracts. Bus contracts, do we get multiple quotes, or is it always just one company? And just the last thing I want to say, or just one comment about our visits with Manchester and Central teachers. I think it just solidifies what the public knows, is that the teachers at Central and West are excellent teachers. We have plenty of history with them. We have 110 years. The public never questions the teachers. What we as a community are questioning now are the leadership in Manchester and their underfunding of those schools and the cutting of those teachers and staff, which are creating the overcrowding problems. We don't have an overcrowding problem. We have plenty of building space. We have an underfunded education system with a lack of teachers. And as Principal Benson's report was, these are extraordinary teachers, and they're under an extraordinary amount of stress as well. The last thing I just want to say is I am disappointed tonight. Mr. Pearl, I think you did a great job. For those of a lot of these people in this room, we've been here since September. We've seen the mayor of Manchester drag his feet. And this board is here to represent the people and take action for the people of Hooksett. Mr. Pearl, I mean, we've all seen this contract since September. And I think we need to get up to speed a little more on it. Mr. Pearl's motion was directing the superintendent to take action, which is what the people of Hooksett want. Part of that action was to consult with a lawyer and then to have it reviewed by the board. I thought there was plenty of procedure in there, and I thought it was an excellent motion. Thank you, Mr. Pearl.
Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak? Nothing. We move on to item 10, informational items and correspondence. Does anyone have any items for the upcoming agenda, which would be March 19th, or any future agendas?
Madam Chair, I would like to put on tech planning to discuss the results of the survey about projectors that we received today.
Any other items?
We have Manchester High School issues that are reoccurring now.
Yes, we do.
We'll also have we should have a plan for the high school roundtable.
Sharon, do you have any items? Information in our packet regarding student enrollment and the Logic and Saunders financial audit, their final report. Dr. Littlefield, do you have anything to go into non-public?
I do not.
Okay. With there being no other items on the agenda, we will adjourn the meeting at 8:05.
Before you adjourn, can I point of order? I don't know if I was sleeping, but did we, I didn't hear attendance or any of the members that are not here excused, and I didn't hear motion on the minutes, so did I not catch that, or?
We tabled the minutes. We tabled the minutes.
Okay.
And we don't do attendance.
Okay. So those that aren't here are just not here. Table the minutes to the next meeting?
Yes, please. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries 3-0.